I would, in fact, make sure that we immediately surge to the border. All those people are seeking asylum. They deserve to be heard. That's who we are. We're a nation that says if you want to flee and you're fleeing oppression, you should come.
The U.S.-Mexico border is a disaster. U.S. federal policy Title 42 recently expired last Thursday, May 11, 2023 at midnight. And in anticipation of the expiration of that policy, thousands of migrants gathered along the border. Title 42 was a COVID-era policy that allowed the Border Patrol to quickly deport migrants back to Mexico and other countries, even those who were seeking asylum with special exceptions. So now with that policy being expired, it's much harder for Border Patrol to do their job and to deport illegal immigrants. And because of that, there's been an enormous surge of migrants. And what's causing this surge is that these migrants know the policy of the United States government. And that's what I want to get to here, because the biggest problem in this entire issue is Joe Biden's open border policy. Many migrants are allowed to enter the country under the guise of asylum, even though some may truly be seeking asylum. Some may just be using it as a reason to get into the country. So let's talk about Joe Biden's policies. The main crux of this problem is catch and release. So what happens is, once the Border Patrol gains a certain capacity percentage, 125% capacity, or if they have more than 7,000 encounters with migrants at the border in a single day, which they've been well above 7,000 a day, if those happen, Border Patrol has to start releasing some of these migrants. Many of them are given court dates, and I've seen some of these court dates pushed all the way out to 2035. They'll give them a hearing, say, hey, you're an illegal immigrant. We had you at our facility, but now here, take this piece of paper. Here's a court date. It's going to be in June 2035. So make sure you show up to court to talk about your asylum hearing several years from now. We'll be looking forward to seeing you. Yeah, right. And once they're given these court dates, they're given a work permit and permission to live in the country pending this court date. Now, if you believe that these immigrants are going to show up in droves to these court hearings years and years from now, I got a bridge in Brooklyn to sell you. And recently, the Border Patrol has been so overwhelmed that many of these migrants are put on, quote unquote, parole and not even given a court hearing. They're saying, hey, we're going to release you into the U.S. community, but come back in 60 days and we'll give you a court date. So we release them without processing them correctly, and we just hope that they show up. We don't know who they are, what they're doing. Are they rapists, child molesters, sex traffickers, killers? We have no idea, but we release them into the country. These are the policies under Joe Biden. Senator Ted Cruz actually went off on Joe Biden and his policies recently regarding this entire issue. So let's take a look at Ted Cruz as he helps us put this into perspective.
We saw back there a couple of hundred people that were sitting there being processed. But right now, the Biden administration has sped up their processing so that they can process an illegal immigrant in about 2 minutes. They are sending 40 or more buses a day, full buses, full of illegal immigrants, to detention facilities. So as fast as they scan them in, they pull out a phone, they scan their documents, they take whatever they say, name, age, what country you're from, and boom, they put them on a bus and send them to facilities. To give you a sense, the facilities here can hold roughly 4,600 people. Yesterday they had 7,000. So you know what they did? They had to release hundreds of people, just release them into the communities. And you know, a minute ago you asked about what other states are doing for South Texas. I appreciate that, because look, South Texas is bearing the brunt of this. What the Biden administration is doing to South Texas is wrong. The hospitals here are full. The prisons here are full. The schools here are full. The farmers and ranchers see the dead bodies every day from this travesty. And all Joe Biden wants to do is have more people come illegally.
What are you
Senator, you have voted down multiple times different policies. So what have specifically the Republican members that are here today, what have you all done to help Joe Biden in this year that you all have waited for?
All right, so that's a ridiculous and silly question. I want to commend you for being the media and telling it Democrat policy. So let me ask you something.
Come on, man, that's been going on for 20 years.
Okay, hey, let me ask you something. Let me ask you something. What rate of illegal immigration did we have in 2020? Do you know anything? I asked you a question. Do you know anything?
How long have you been in office?
I've been in office 11 years now.
And this has been kicked the count during multiple administrations.
Except you're okay. You don't get to argue with me. You asked your question. You asked your question. You don't get. You want to hold a press conference? You can do it over there.
You have multiple.
You want to hold a press conference? You can do it over there.
How are you?
So hold on. I'm going to answer his question. The talking point of the Democrats, which this media reporter happily parrots, is, gosh, the problem can't be fixed. There's one little problem with that. It is an utter and complete lie. In 2020, the last year of the Trump presidency, we had the lowest rate of illegal immigration in 45 years. You ask, what have I done? I've championed the men and women of Border Patrol. I've championed securing the border. I've championed Remain in Mexico. And we turned this problem around and solved it. And we went from Joe Biden inherited the lowest rate of illegal immigration in 45 years. And the first day in office, he made political decisions to cause this problem. And you should be ashamed of yourself because you're a reporter and you're not reporting facts. You're telling lies. Joe Biden made a political decision and they turn a blind eye. If you want to know just how much they turn a blind eye, 6 weeks ago in the Judiciary Committee, I questioned Alejandro Mayorkas. I put up a poster board of colored wristbands. And I asked him, Mr. Secretary, what are these colored wristbands? And he said, I don't know. I have no idea. That was the one bit of his testimony that truly shocked me because just about every illegal immigrant who crosses the border is wearing a colored wristband. They correspond to how many thousands of dollars the immigrants owe the cartels. And the fact that Mayorkas doesn't even know what they are, if you stand on the banks of the Rio Grande River, as I have done many times, you see hundreds or thousands of these wristbands laying in the ground. Sir, I don't know if you stood there, but I know Mayorkas hasn't because he didn't know what the wristbands were. And that means he hasn't talked to the Border Patrol agents either. It is immoral. And when those kids cross, the teenage boys who owe thousands of dollars to the cartels, the Biden administration flies them to every city in America. They fly them to Kansas. And there those teenage boys are forced to work for the Mexican drug cartels committing crimes to pay off the money they owe. And if they don't pay it off, they'll murder their families. And I'll tell you, as bad as the boys have it, the girls have it worse. There are thousands upon thousands of teenage girls trapped in sex slavery. And yet, for those of you in the media who don't report on that, you should be ashamed. This is evil. And the reason you don't see any Democrats here is they can't defend this. They're counting on the press not to cover it. It's wrong.
Thank you
very much.
Okay, so you saw that. Here's the thing. It actually gets worse. It gets worse because what else has been going on is that the Border Patrol under Biden's policies are sneaking migrants in the middle of the night. They're sneaking people in, and some they take to their facilities only for a few days, only to release them after 60 hours or so. And some they're just taking to cities like downtown Brownsville, downtown El Paso, and just letting them go. And they have no idea who these people are. So let's watch here. So this is at the U.S.-Mexico border near Juarez and El Paso. So you have Border Patrol backing up to the border as far as they can go deep into a ravine in the middle of the night. And what they're doing is they're filling these buses up with migrants. And once filled, they're taking them to downtown El Paso, letting them go. And like I said, some of them may go to the facility, but if they go because of the catch and release policies, they're released right away after a few days. Look at that. They're just waving them through. waving them through. Like, these people literally just crossed the border. Border Patrol is load them onto the bus. So some will be processed and some won't. So the question becomes, what should be done about this? What can we do to slow down the influx of migrants at the border? Well, one thing that we need to bring back is the Remain in Mexico policy. Under that Trump era policy, asylum seekers had to apply for asylum in the first country that they enter after they left their home country. For example, if you come from Guatemala, then you have to apply for asylum in Mexico. Also, the migrants at the U.S. border, they had to remain in Mexico while their asylum cases were being determined. And this policy disincentivized thousands and thousands of migrants from coming to the border, because a lot of these people aren't really asylum seekers. They're economic migrants. They're trying to skip the line. They don't want to go through normal immigration processes. So if they can just cross to the border, they can enter the U.S. and pursue their economic goals that way. But having to remain in Mexico for up to years at a time is something that they did not want to do. They didn't have the patience for that. Another thing that we need to do is increase the number of judges. So we have a backlog of a few million asylum seeking cases, but we only have 600 judges in the entire country who are ruling on these cases. So they can only do so much. And with the increased influx of migrants coming in, new applications for asylum, the judges are falling further and further behind. So we need a lot more judges, enough judges to reduce the backlog of asylum seeking applications. And another huge thing, probably the most important thing, is we need to look at what's going on in Latin America to make this happen in the first place. I'm talking about cultural change. We have a massive issue down there, economic and crime issue, which they're often tied together in a lot of ways. These migrants are incentivized to come to the United States because the economic situation where they come from is so bad by comparison. They hear, hey, you have all these opportunities, the land of opportunity. Come up here. We're going to give you free stuff. We're going to give you welfare. Maybe you can get a job and make way more money than you ever dreamed of in your home country. So if these countries can clean up their act, if they can clean up the crime, then far less people are going to be incentivized to leave and try to illegally enter the United States. And finally, we need quicker deportations. If these people come to the country, they illegally enter the country, instead of catching them and releasing them into the country, immediately ship them out. Ship them out as fast as Border Patrol can, which they need more personnel too. But ship them out as fast as you can, and that's going to send word to the rest of the people, you're not going to come here and stay. You're going to waste your time coming here. So let's get to what this is really about. It's about power. The Democrats are flooding the southern border with Latinos in order to gain political power. It already worked in Arizona. The last presidential election, everybody was shocked. Oh man, there's no way Trump lost Arizona. How did Joe Biden win Arizona? Easy, because over the last few decades, you've been flooding Arizona along with Texas and New Mexico with Latinos, and the Latinos voted 65% for Joe Biden. And that's the goal. So if you were watching early on in the last election, Texas was pretty evenly split. It took a while, and even at the conclusion, Texas wasn't a landslide in favor of Trump the way New York and California were landslides in favor of Biden. Texas wasn't that far apart. Texas is very close to becoming purple. So the goal is to keep flooding southern Texas with Latinos, and then just tell the Latinos, hey, Republicans are racist. We're going to give you free stuff. We're going to give you welfare. We're going to give you all of these things, and we're going to give you lip service, pretending that we're on your side. And when it's time to vote, just remember that Trump is racist and the Republicans are racist. So that's the real goal. That's the end game. And the price is human capital. We have a disaster at the border, and the Democrats are turning a blind eye to that because it's helping them gain political power. Let's take a look at some of the images from the border. So Brownsville, a bunch of migrants waiting to be processed. People crossing the river, including a baby, and then here you have people waiting to be transported. And finally, I'm going to leave you with this clip here from InfoWars. Leave me your thoughts down in the comments below. Thanks for watching.
So are they going to block our cameras too? Yeah, make sure we can't see it. Very nice. Make sure nobody can see Biden's border invasion. Make sure nobody can see the illegal immigrants. You dirty, stinking Americans.
I'm sorry.
Your country gets away. Yeah, you dirty Americans. Get out of the way. This is the illegal immigrants' country. What do you guys think you're doing? This country's for illegal immigrants. You guys are dirty Americans. Get out of the way. How rude of you. How rude of you to think you have a country anymore.
You're some kind of butterfly. Baby, you give me